We're going to switch gears a little bit here and just talk about some other topics of interest. And I know one that comes up quite frequently on FOP Online, our Yahoo support group, is about piercings. Luckily, we haven't had to face this decision yet, as Carly's ears were pierced before she was diagnosed. But can you talk about piercing, and importantly, are there any areas that maybe you suggest shouldn't be pierced or are okay to be pierced, or do we know?
Well, this question comes up frequently in the office, as you can imagine, especially with the teenagers. And the teenagers ask me, the teenage girls ask me, can I have my ears pierced? And I made the mistake once of saying yes, and the mother was sitting in the room, and she says, well, you didn't ask me. And so I always preface it by saying you have to check with your parents whether you can have this done. From a medical standpoint, is it safe? I have not seen any problems with ear piercings in FOP. There's no muscle in there. It's loose cartilage, and thankfully there haven't been any problems. There are certainly areas of the body that I would be very reluctant to give my go-ahead. That is, if the parents said it's okay too. I
can attest to that as well.
But the question comes up with the tongue, for example. Now, the tongue is a skeletal muscle. I think it would be very harmful to consider that, especially if there was a tongue piercing and the jaw locked. The potential for aspiration would be high. So no, that shouldn't be done. And many other areas of the body too. I don't feel comfortable with many of those other areas, but I must admit, if I want that knowledge, I go to the FOP Online and I find out what the teenagers are saying, because they often do it against my recommendations. And so that may be the bottom line as to whether or not this is acceptable. And I think it brings up another important point, Lori, and that is that many of the questions that come to us as physicians and scientists, especially the medical questions, I think, are often solved by patients themselves. I mean, this was one of the reasons why Jeannie established the International FOP Association, was to bring the connections together, bring the world together to have a connection. And now that we have such wonderful ways to communicate with each other electronically with the internet and with chat lines, FOP patients from all over the world are online. Very often I'll get questions from patients and I'll say, why don't you go online and ask this question? Right. And within 24 hours, the answers have returned.
Sometimes within 5 minutes. Sometimes it's really a very amazing support network that we have.